Hi, I'm Autumn. I'm telling my story out here in the land of socials while I'm writing my memoir. It's titled I Have to Tell, and it'll be coming out later this year with the audiobook. I wanted to talk today about something that's really something that I deal with on a pretty regular basis, and I would venture to guess a lot of people deal with it on a regular basis. Depression, and that hole that you fall into when you have a depressive episode. And it's a very dark hole, and sometimes, it requires that you sit there for a minute, but there is ways to help yourself climb out of those holes, at least that I've found for myself, that seem to help if I can do it at the time. Like I said, sometimes you just have to sit there, and that's part of the whole deal, unfortunately. But there's a middle ground between being fine and being sitting in that hole. And sometimes I find that when I ask myself certain questions and try to identify things and feelings, identify triggers, did something trigger it that landed me in this hole? Did anything at all trigger it? Maybe nothing did. Where is it coming from? What am I feeling? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling afraid? Am I grieving? What is the feeling and the emotion? Because of course, naming those are really powerful in taking the power out of them. Naming that feeling is really important. The other thing that is really helpful for me that I find is to check what kind of patterns I'm having, what kind of thinking patterns I'm in. My therapist used to tell me all the time, you're in that all or nothing pattern again. I have a big problem with either it's all or it's nothing, and there's nothing in between. And if you're in that pattern, that thought process, while you're in your depressive hole, then it's really hard to see that there's any way to get out of it, because your inside voice is telling you something that's not true. And so helping to identify those things. So the most important thing to do when you get depressed and you find yourself in your hole is to start to get curious. Just start to explore what you're feeling. Start to ask yourself questions, and what those questions are going to be different for everybody, but try and dig deeper into those emotions, because there's a reason why you're sitting with them. And when you can get to the crux of it and you can figure it out, and you can figure out some of those emotions and those feelings, then you can start to climb out. The reality is that people with depression usually live on the edge of that hole their entire lives. And it's a balancing game and a strengthening exercise to not fall in on a constant basis. And you use things like medication, like therapy, like journaling, writing a book. It's all a process, and it's all part of you staying in touch with yourself and being able to identify where you are and what you're feeling, and to get curious. So please figure that stuff out while you're there, if you can. There's no judgments if you can't either. Not everybody is at that place, but I just wanted to share with you what seems to work for me sometimes. And it's not an immediate overnight sensation, but it is something that helps me dig myself out. Thanks again for listening. I really hope that you heard something that can resonate with you. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your story. Thanks.